there, welcome to another episode of the Ugandan podcast, brought to you by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance in collaboration with MultiChoice Uganda. Now, this season is all about tech, data, and how can we proceed without talking about being safely online. Now, when it comes to mobile money, memes, and everything, our lives are increasingly out there, but are we doing so safely? We can't have this conversation without talking to the professionals, and today I have a team of heavy hitters when it comes to the tech space and keeping safe as we navigate that. Today we have with us Mr. Baker Birikujja, the Acting Data Protection Director from the Personal Data Protection Office, Martin Karungi, the Acting Manager Governance and Risk at National Information Technology Authority of Uganda, and Aidah Bukubuza, the Team Lead at AYDIA Gender and Technology Initiative. Welcome and thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, before we started recording, we were talking about some staggering statistics. Baker, you shared that 13% of Ugandans know about the Data Protection and Privacy Act. And according to a survey by the PDPO, your office, 5% of Ugandans actually even know about digital rights. Now, before people say that this is complicated and it's only for the big tech companies and it doesn't matter to me, I mean, why should Ugandans know about data protection? Why should Ugandans know about digital rights? Why should they care?
Thank you, Anne-Marie. That's a very good question. You know, the law was enacted in 2019, so it's about 4 years since when the office was operationalized in 2021. But many people knew about GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation.
Okay.
Because when it came in place in 2018, everyone was asked to read about cookies, privacy notices. So many people thought that it was a European concept. And
Right.
wondering, does it matter in Uganda? Do we even have such a law? So I'll give you an example. When you wake up, most people reach out for their phones.
Yes.
So even without you putting up any settings, it can tell you when you wake up or how many hours you've been asleep. Then you will wake up, do whatever you have to do, then move out and go to a place. In some instances, your phone will actually ask you, do you want, especially where you use public transport, Uber or Little Cab, it will ask you, is this your workplace? Do you want to update it?
Right.
So many people don't think much about it, but there are actually risks that come with it. And some of these risks whereby if someone is able to connect the dots, know how many hours you've slept, where you're sleeping, where your home is, where you work, and this information is available to unauthorized individuals, could actually bring harm to you. And at the PDPO, the Personal Data Protection Office, we've seen some of these. I can give you a personal story. I make so many orders online. I like my convenience.
Right. So does everyone really.
So making an order, so I have so many drivers or courier placement orders coming to my door. So one time I said, well, let me just Google my name. So I Googled and put in my name. To my shock, the pin with the actual details of where I stay came up
God.
on the public web. So I was very concerned and I started fidgeting, saying, you know, if a person just decided to Google me, they would have my details of my home. So what would it mean? I'm not a criminal, but it would mean that if anyone would like to trail me or anyone who would find out that if we've left home, all of us, there is no one there, then they can know when exactly to hit without even making a phone call to me. So data protection and privacy, starting with privacy, it's about keeping information that you wouldn't want to have out there to people who are not authorized to have it. It's a constitutional right, which comes from Article 27, that says, as an individual, you have that right to privacy. And any person who is collecting that information should make sure they keep it confidential. Otherwise, risks of that nature could actually put your privacy in jeopardy, as it did with mine.
Yes.
But you know, we've also seen others, whereby, especially, you know, when people go online, a lot more information is collected and used. So, and I'll not give examples, specific names. Let me say someone delivers something to you. Now, we received a complaint where the rider that was supposed to deliver a particular product gave it to a friend, in quotes. So that friend is the one that delivered it. Later, after delivering it, they told the lady, they sent her a WhatsApp that I can be able to help you do shopping without you using the app, and this is what you can pay me. So, of course, the lady was concerned and reached out and said, I did not agree or consent for my number to be shared with such a person.
Yeah.
So those are some of the scenarios that I can give where every person should think about privacy. You know, privacy is not that you're hiding anything and that you're a criminal in quotes, but because there are people who are out there to misuse the information. And may not even be third parties, could even be in your home.
Yeah.
We received a complaint. A lady had a car, it was taken to the washing bay. So they tell her that she has a tracking device in her car. She didn't think much of it. It was removed. 6 months down the road, another was found in. They told her that you really need to be concerned.
Yes.
She lodged a complaint with us, and on investigating, lo and behold, the person who had placed it there was the husband. So the company was not willing to give us the details, but he told her we are the regulator. So even if you are a married couple, privacy is a constitutional right. If you're to track a person, you want to find out where they are, how they spend their time through such devices, remember that there is a law, the Data Protection and Privacy Act. She was a lawyer, she knew what to do, but so many Ugandans out there, they don't know what to do.
Yes.
So everyone should think about their information. Some of the information we publicly or willingly provide, but there are others whose information is just collected in ways that they may not even understand. So that's why everyone should think about data protection and privacy, because it's about who you are being identified, another person misusing it, but also being a very big threat to your privacy as an individual.
So clearly we are exposed by information that we share willingly, like you said, using the courier apps and the car hailing apps and ordering online and everything. But then we're also exposed in ways that we do not know. When we sign up to maybe buy a new SIM card, there's that whole KYC where we just tick the terms and conditions, I agree, and you move on with everything. But now it's important for us to protect ourselves, but we're also hoping that on the government side we're having some protection. So from NITA-U, Martin, can you tell us how you are helping Ugandans daily protect their data and their rights online?
Okay. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Thanks for having us over. But maybe let's start with, do people know who NITA-U is?
Okay,
And
let's start there. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so we are the lead agency that coordinates and leads and develops all ICT initiatives in the country. So at any one point when government wants to procure a system, when there is a cyber threat or an attack on any critical infrastructure, advisory, we do a lot of training as well.
Okay.
NITA is the key go-to person.
Right.
To your question on what we are doing, we are also a policy leader, as much as our mother ministry, the Ministry of ICT, is the major driver.
Okay.
We design a lot of work around ICT policy. But within the ICT policy, we have a security component, right? And so that security components also form and formulate the bigger strategic plan. So for those who feel they're interested and want to read a bit, there's what we call the National Cybersecurity Strategy.
Okay.
You can go in there and deep dive on all the little things that we do. Away from that, we have a very interesting organ called the National Computer Emergency Response Team and Coordination Center.
Okay.
It's a little bullet that is kept somewhere, but does a lot of work when it comes to incident monitoring, incident managing. NITA runs a fiber cable around the entire country, which we call the National Backbone Infrastructure, the NBI, very popular for providing service to all your border points, all your government offices. And for us, that's where we sit to watch and monitor the kind of threats that go there. For your information, Uganda receives about 208 million cyber attacks every month.
208
million.
And this is an average, I'm guessing.
It is an average.
So it can even be more than that.
Yeah, because we don't have visibility into the private sector.
Oh, okay.
But on the government networks, we see close to about 208 million a month. Of those, because of our astuteness, the kind of technology we have and the teams we have built over time, 3 will pass. Okay? Luckily enough, because of the presence of the Computer Emergency Response Team, we are able to respond quickly and swiftly.
Right.
We have coordination around the world. We have a lot of other similar bodies that we coordinate with. Please note that attacks don't originally come from Uganda all the time.
Right.
We see very little action from home and see more action from abroad. So we have teams around the world in the US, in Egypt, in South Africa, in South Korea, all these different big players around the world. We have a body that puts us together. So on the technical front, that's where we are. However, we also have a little other bullet that we don't make noise about.
These little bullets seem to make a significant impact.
We have a standard or a guideline called the National Information Security Framework.
Okay.
It guides ministries, departments, and agencies when it comes to issues concerning how to structure their security.
Okay.
So when you walk into any ministry, any department, any agency, that is the playbook that they use to safeguard their systems.
Okay.
The public can adopt it. It's open. It's a public document that they can access over the internet. They can use it for their own private use or companies. But largely, the protection of your data, if it's passport information, national ID, land titles, etc., the standard is the National Information Security Framework. So in a nutshell, those are the mechanisms in place that we use to protect your data.
It's reassuring to know that you are not reactionary, that you are proactive in protecting us.
Absolutely.
But now in a space of over 2.4 billion cyber attacks a year, Aidah, in your space, you are dealing with a completely different kind of cyber attack altogether. Can you please tell us, I mean, it might not even be common knowledge that women are more vulnerable to attacks through their digital information. Can you tell us what some of these threats are and why are women more susceptible to them?
Well, thank you very much, Anne-Marie. Naturally, women are targeted intentionally for many of us know for obvious reasons, society norms. There has been a lot of normalization of women being taken for granted in many ways, from being catcalled, even in the physical world.
Yes.
You know, sexualized for anything. You just pass by the border just as you step out of the studio and it is normal for someone to see a border person, you know, catcalling a woman. And it's normal for society, patriarchy, and other, you know, influencing aspects. However, when it comes to vulnerability and women, first of all, we work at the intersection of gender and technology. As an individual, I'm a computer scientist, and before coming into the civil society, it was a matter of underrepresentation. How deep can we talk about stuff that affect or even threaten women's full potential to fully harness their full potential in realizing their goal into the ecosystem in technology, beyond the technological or technical terms. I used to work for a telecom, and when it comes to, for example, pay, it was always unequal pay. And you do the same roles. When it comes to promotions, you're always valued as a gendered person, considered a woman first. Will you handle to do ABCD? Can you handle to go to mass? Can you do ABCD before looking at your competence? So some of these things threaten women and threaten them from harnessing their full potential and realizing what they can offer. And sometimes we become too comfortable. You're like, even if I say so or ABCD, I'll not be considered for this particular role. So the inequalities and the threats in that aspect come up to make it very impossible for many women to step up. However, we cannot dismiss the effort that has been improved, or the many efforts for many people who have stepped up in both government, state, and the private sector, who have come ahead to forefront the ecosystem. We, for example, here at this ministry, where the PS, you know, is a lady, we see the ministry in ICT, in STI, right?
STI.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, is a woman, and there are very many others who can play a role as models for other people to look up to them. However, we still have our challenges of those who have gone ahead of us, but do not stand there.
In the field.
In the field and the careers. Right. And why so? Because oftentimes we have other gendered biases beyond just, you know, the gender technology, gender-based violence, which I'll talk about later. However, there are certain things that come as naturally to women when you get married, when you get like children, and other issues when it comes to, domestic roles that can affect your performance, or even taking up these particularly male-dominated opportunities. So when it comes to the protection and the vulnerability of women in that space, it comes down to looking at, I'll give an example. I think this year is going to be very interesting. We are headed to a very heated period in the next couple of months, maybe probably weeks from now. We are going into a very heat of a democratic process where we are going to go into the general campaigns of the country and leading us into the early 2026 general election. And we cannot dismiss that we have too many women contenders that showed up for 2021 election. Same is coming for 2025/2026. And when it comes to targeted violence, when we look at digital platforms, people have normalized, or abusers or perpetrators, to look at these spaces where they cannot hit Anne-Marie physically. They are going to use these particular platforms to target and threaten them, use them against them. And when I hear my colleagues talk about the data protection and everything, it also has advantages and opportunities where we can have opportunity to display who is abusing so and so. In terms, if I report a number, I can look it up using like a mock of trying to send you mobile money. I can get your full name.
Yes.
It comes, if someone is overly calling me on that, I can use that same number to report, for example, to authorities to say this number is threatening my potential, is harassing me, and etc. However, when it comes to stalking, then it becomes a problem, because if someone can use your information, like your phone number, to track you down, then we have a problem. It is a double-edged sword when it comes to data protection at the end of the day. And when Baker was making submissions in regards to rights, oftentimes when we go into even, before even look at the digital platforms, I always look at the intersection when it comes to the physical abilities and the general way of how we live. How many of us sometimes go to different entry levels where you're given this particular logbook, where you have to sign your full name, car number, plate, and everything. Openly, you can see Baker signed under so and so. Like you can have the whole paper of people who have registered into that entry for that particular organization. I'll just use my phone, take a screenshot.
Picture,
Before you know it, people are calling you, there is this sale and everything. So we also need to look at how potentially, as the ministry and the policymakers like NITA-U and your office, Baker, on how best we can have improvement in such information being shared for public view, because it's not intention of an askari to do their job. Yeah, they're supposed to do their job. But when it comes to display of this information, your full name, your full number, time checked in, if someone is basically looking at you, it is a threat. It is very compromised. And then back to what Anne-Marie was talking about, to the women and technology eco spaces, it dawns us down to, when I was giving the example of the democratic process, there's going to be targeted technology, gender-based violence.
Of course.
Intentionally, not only to women, but majorly to women. Statistically, I'm not dismissing that men are not being abused. We've seen scenarios of how many bloggers go online and they feel like that is freedom of speech. And I always tell people there is a thin line between freedom of speech and you being the freedom person who oppresses the other.
Yes.
You may call it your speech. We have had examples of people like Akwenza, how they openly think they're expressive, but we have seen how he has continuously, since the other year, talking about, for example, the Honorable Anita Among. You know how he labels her. Often and obviously, which is not right. And we have normalized these things and these conversations. And when it comes to contenders, especially women in leadership and specifically politics, it is going to be very absurd, because if we do not prepare ourselves to make sure there is safety, to make sure that we align the policies and the ethical considerations, internet responsible use, to call upon the abusers to make sure they are penalized. This is going to be normalized. We are in an era where we have different trends and emerging technology, and AI is buzzing at the moment. There is going to be very intentional, targeted, technology-facilitated gender-based violence on women in leadership. Women in limelight, we have seen this come up in terms of, we've seen conversations and intentional violence on people, especially in limelights, like in the media industry and entertainment industry. We've had cases of those of Judith Hard, we saw the Desire Luzindas and many others being intentionally targeted, and society normalizes this on women. But remember, these acts that we call whatever we want, or immoral and whatever, are not acts of one person. There are other people, part of these particular acts, but society has normalized to make it seem like it's a woman's fault to be in such. Yeah.
It's your fault.
It is
Receive
your
it,
fault.
take it, and be
yeah,
quiet.
like we just because we don't have cameras in other people's bedrooms and homes, it does not mean people do not have a right on how they wish to have their personal lives. So
Exactly.
it comes down to privacy and protection. So we need to protect this. So in case it happens to the woman, let ministries like your bodies come up and protect the person, not just as a woman and what they have done in the act. Can we look at the privacy part of it part first and then the protection? Then maybe public can discuss other things of their interest, but the issue is privacy and protection.
Now, speaking to that privacy and protection, Baker would be the perfect person to understand this. I bet the best way to protect yourself is to know your rights, because we're giving away so much information because we feel like we have to. And yet, under the Data Protection and Privacy Act, the average Ugandan has rights. So what are some of these key rights that maybe people overlook on a daily basis, that you actually don't have to violate my rights in that way?
That's a good question. When you know your rights, that means you can be able to assert them. But if you don't know them, then you can willingly allow a person to misuse your information or even abuse your privacy.
Yes.
So one of the very first rights is the right to be informed about what information is being collected from you and why is it even being collected. What will it be used for? I'll give an example. Received a complaint, an agency, it happened to be a government agency. It had a job application form. It required someone to state who their parents are, father, mother. And then it required, for the blood group, it also wasn't very clear.
I beg your pardon.
The blood group.
For a job application?
A job that's not even in the health sector.
Okay.
So one of the applicants reached out and wondered, why would you want to know my father and mother for a job that does not even entail anything to do with them? So the right to be informed, because many people, job applicants, they are desperate. They need a job.
Yes.
You don't know if you'll be called for that interview. So they will willingly give away this information. So the first right is, why do you need this so much information? Because it can be used to discriminate against you.
Yeah.
So if someone collecting information and possibly they want to look into your parents and they want to gauge you and see in whichever way they can use that information. So the first right is right to be informed. Even if you are collecting the information, but in the context of it, is it relevant for what you want to use it for, applying for a job?
Right.
Then the other is about, definitely, even if a person has collected the information, and by the way, this applies to both government and private sector, they should give you ability for you to be able to get a copy of that information. So if you've collected my information, I should be able to come back to you, tell you what information do you have about me, how many people have accessed it, you've given access to. It would really help. Yes, the law gives you that right. So
I didn't know that.
yes, so if you give your information to a person, like I've indicated, even if it's in the public sector, there is that form that you can fill within the law, telling them, okay, I gave you this information, what do you intend to use it for?
Right.
And then the other is around that, if I've given you the information, and you could have stated the reason at the time, and I'm going to keep to job applications to give it better context, is that if you don't need that information for that particular purpose, then you should delete it, unless you have a valid reason. And I'm going to give 2 sets of complaints that we've received. So there was a lady, she applied for a job through a third party. They vetted her, she gave away all information regarding her background, academic, and all the others. So later on, they tell her, including financial information, her banking details. They told her that, we are unable to proceed with giving you an offer, so you will not have one, and it will stop here the relationship we have with you for that period of time. So she wrote to the company, both the one that was attempting to hire her and the third party, and told them, you need to delete that information, because it also included her teen.
Yes.
So, of course, they were first shocked, saying, usually people will assert their rights, and they'll use Luganda in this instance. They call them, they have Lugezgez. So they were wondering, but this lady, why do you even bother? You're writing all that. And we wrote to them and told them, unless you give a valid reason why you need to retain this information. And the law says it could be taxation purposes, if there is an investigation ongoing, or you'd like to defend a particular claim, you can keep it because you'll need it as evidence. But where you don't, and there is no valid reason, then you should delete it. So deletion can apply in that circumstance, or where information is actually incomplete or misleading. You've changed the name, or you've gotten a new national ID, and the other information doesn't entail to it. So why would you keep information that I no longer use or rely on?
Yeah.
So the other is also around, beyond getting to know, being informed, deletion, who has shared it. But even most importantly, if I can request, which I've talked about, a copy of the information should be given to me. And this happened, there was a fintech. So someone was being onboarded, of course, as part of the process, KYC, know your customer. They gave them a copy of their national ID. Now, the original got lost. And they didn't have a copy, but they knew that they had given it to that particular company.
Yes.
So they requested the company. And, unfortunately, it's in Uganda, there is this habit of when information is given to a company, it's a no-go area. So the person requested, I need a copy of my national ID because I know I gave it to you.
Right.
So they exercise their right, saying, yes, I need a copy of that information because it is me. They identify themselves who gave it to you. It's a very big challenge with hospitals. If you go to receive treatment and then they make all sorts of diagnoses, make up a file, and you say, well, probably I need a second opinion. If you ask for that information from them to take it to wherever, even if you're telling them I'm taking it home or to another hospital, they never give it to you. Many people are ignorant that the law gives you that right to access your information. That hospital should give you that information, at least a copy of it. So those are just some of the rights regarding your personal information and even your privacy and how you can exercise them.
I appreciate your explanations. They were very real-world applications on a daily that even I didn't know. I can go and ask how many people know my business. But anyway, knowing is half the battle. Explaining it is the other fight. So, Martin, I want to come back to you. There's someone who's watching this episode of The Ugandan on YouTube. Maybe they were on TikTok before that. Maybe they had just sent mobile money. And then now you're talking about these 208 million, so 2.4 billion plus attacks a year. And someone is saying, they're probably attacking larger entities, they're probably attacking government institutions. Yeah. But that person is also being attacked and they don't know it. So for the average Ugandan, in the simplest terms, not the bullets, as fancy and as powerful as they sound, in the simplest terms, how can you explain to someone digital rights matter and this is why cybersecurity is something you should be concerned with and this is why?
Okay, for the ordinary Ugandan, there's the one thing, I like the way Baker put it earlier. He said that every time you wake up, most times you want to pick your phone and see if there's a fire that happened while you are asleep. Number one is, I do not know, first of all, why the industry decided to call it a smartphone. It's not as smart as you think it is. It's actually a very intrusive device that we have, right? So your first responsibility is, first of all, to guard yourself. What does guarding yourself look like? Number one, when you download an application, I will give you an example. There is a telephone of a high-profile individual that was being tracked.
Okay.
When we looked deeper into the thing, he had downloaded a calculator application, okay, off one of the stores, okay, for the smartphones, I will not mention. But when he was, it asked, can I access your contacts? So why does your calculator want access to your contacts, right? It asked for access to messages, access to calendar, right? We live like zombies. This is what I'm going to tell you.
Yes.
Because I know all of you here who are listening, you have been victims of this at some point.
Of just accept.
Allow, always track.
Yes.
So there's that need for you to be a bit self-aware.
Yes.
I like to call it being paranoid. It's very important. You can be as relaxed as you are when you have a conversation like we are doing, but the moment you grab this little device, your level of security also needs to step up.
Yes.
Have you ever been walking at night and you feel people behind you and you feel uncomfortable?
Yes.
That's the same way I deal with my son, with my smartphone. So there's that need for that self-awareness. Why does my calculator want access to my contacts?
Yes.
So that's one. Two, if we get a bit more sophisticated, so recently we were asked to conduct an audit, a systems audit for a very big entity in Uganda. And part of our terms of reference allow us to be intrusive in the nature of the audit.
In what way?
Intrusive meaning we can retrieve passwords if they are easy.
Okay.
So we saw things like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wow.
And this is the person who does approvals. We saw things like ABCD, first name, date of birth, which is information that you gave while you are setting up your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your what.
Yes.
So if I am profiling you to target you as a hacker, I just need to sit down and look at your entire open source life.
Yes.
Twitter, what they call X now, Facebook, LinkedIn, name it. Baker had that problem with maps.
Yes.
Other people have it with the information that they give. So it becomes very easy for me as an attacker to sit down and say, your name is Christine? Okay. Then so we have something called a dictionary attack where we just put in patterns of words and then the system just continuously guesses until it gets the right one. Okay. So the simpler the words are, the simpler the numbering is or the patterns, the easier it becomes for an outsider to access. So what am I saying? I'm saying that take some time to create some complex passwords. Don't make it too easy because the bad guys out there are sophisticated.
Yes.
It's worse if it's a nation state that comes after you, right? So we have policies, for example, in our workplace, and this can be at an organizational level for those who are listening from organizations or entities. We highly encourage that you don't allow people to have the same password for more than 30 days. Okay? Right?
Makes sense.
You've seen those prompts from your telecom providers, change your PIN number.
Change your PIN, yes.
Or your bank account, your bank's providing you that prompt.
Yes.
It's not for fun. They incur a
Yes.
cost, first of all, to send it to you via that SMS.
Yes.
So there is a need for us to really take serious on the kind of security measures we use. I've not seen anyone using a twig as a fence. You all have walls with CCTV and barbed wire and
And
the
electric
doors,
fences
electric fences,
and-
then you have double locks on the doors. That's the same thing you need to apply with the phone. We have two-factor authentication, right? So when you set up an account, you go and ask the service to give you another layer of security. So if my password is beaten, if it's weak, there's an SMS or a one-time password that's sent to my telephone that I can retrieve.
Button, yes.
I've had incidents before. Someone from Nigeria, I don't know what they were up to. I just saw that someone from Nigeria is trying to access your da-da-da-da-da. And then again, another prompt came asking me to send the
One
OTP,
OTP.
to validate the OTP. So that was a layer of security. So if I had a weak password, I have now another layer that's protecting me. And then, of course, we usually like to have these smartphones, but we forget to take care of them.
In what way?
Updating. That is the biggest, I think the second biggest security measure you can take.
Is my phone updated? Now I'm wondering, is my watch updated?
Update all the time.
Okay.
Yes, we agree some updates are going to come 504 MB, and then you're going to say, but I only have Gaga Weekend or 100 MBs.
Yeah.
But you need to update. Why? Because, and I speak from the adversary side, is that when we target systems, we look for systems that are out of date. So please continuously update your applications.
Right.
I think that's as far as I can take it for the common wananchi.
Yeah.
Or maybe one last one.
Yes.
Please be careful what you share on the internet. I've seen
In
people
terms
want
of
to
what?
tell you their birthdays, where they were born, and then etc.
Yes.
It makes profiling easy. And if profiling is easy, we can then use that for password guessing.
But now we live in a world where people are using their content as a means of making a living. So someone is going to celebrate, I'm this age today, it's whatever. By deduction, you've already gotten my full date of birth. So now it's such a thin line to walk, I guess.
Where I'm coming from is maybe not a birthday, because that one is easy to guess, right? But we have had incidences where people will take a picture of a boarding pass and put it on the internet to tell people how they are flying somewhere.
Right.
Right? So all I need is to pick the number, log into the airline. I can cancel your flight.
Yes.
I can ask for a refund. I can change the information of the flight, and I put my own names, and I board before you.
Hey, Bambe.
Then you have two Martin Karungis on the same flight. And then we say now who is who and who booked first. If you have dietary restrictions, I can ask them to give you peanuts while you're on the flight. The next thing we know is your throat is closed and you're 40,000 feet in the air with the plane. So by the time you land, you tell me.
You're in a t-shirt.
Thank you very much. So that is where I'm coming from in terms of sharing information.
Yes.
A birthday is not a big deal. But I've seen people take pictures of passports. I've seen people take pictures of their homes. Maybe they are going for a vacation.
Yes.
And we know very well maybe the only two people in that house. And both of you are taking a picture at the airport. So now we know the house is
heading
empty.
out. Yes.
And then maybe you have some jewelry, because I've seen you somewhere with the Rolex when you go to sit in a restaurant. So this is what I'm talking about. There's that
Martin,
need.
you need to add Rolex the watch.
I'm telling you.
Rolex the watch. Rolex the watch. Yeah, so that's the other thing I think that we really need to be cautious about.
Yes.
How we share when we share. Sharing is not a bad idea.
Just be careful.
If I take a picture today, I'll probably release it in 6 weeks.
Okay.
Okay?
That's safe.
So I'm going for a vacation with a spouse, etc. We release it after 5 days when we have already returned home. Okay? If you feel so obliged, you first land in back in Uganda, then you release.
And you start
Tell the
releasing.
enemies
Yeah.
that we have arrived.
It is okay. Yeah.
Now, Aidah, from
I'm
Baker and
joking.
Martin's perspective, they're telling us what to do. But in your space now, you can tell the civil society that also you help us like this. So how can you maybe advise the civil society or ask them to be held accountable for particularly the marginalized groups, which is, you know, the young people, the women who are more susceptible to these attacks?
Well, that's a very interesting question, especially because you highlighted the part where content creation now is a job.
Yes.
People are taking it seriously as a career, and they're earning and making, ends meet with it. However, when it comes to the digital footprint, it's also a personal responsibility. Earlier, Ron mentioned about responsible internet use, something that we do not talk about so often today. But in a world where the intersection between our general and physical lives is literally equal to our digital living.
Yes.
Baker already shared how people wake up to their phones. Some of us don't even wear watches anymore, because you're like, I have my phone, it will do ABCD, I can do my calendar and stuff like that on my phone. So basically our lives, we live digitally. And
Yes.
it is quite very difficult right now to say we can have control. However, we can choose, like what Martin already mentioned. And when it comes to civil society and the things when it comes to digital rights, and because we work with very many marginalized groups and work around people who may not know much when it comes to awareness and knowing their rights, it is very important to tell people the challenges posed by these digital platforms, including social media and tools and other digital opportunities that there is in today's changing world of work. So when it comes to some of the threats that we can look at is majorly cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is a very big thing, and people are threatened. It affects your physical and mental health. We've seen people lose families, lose their mental well-being, etc. And we do not have so many conversations around mental health. But also, it is something that is very, very important. Another thing is in regards to addiction. Technology consumption is very addictive, especially when it comes to social activities, social, platforms. They are very, very very addictive, and they are very disruptive in terms of destroying productivity in workplaces, in homes, in children. Yeah, it is something that we need to look deeply into to make sure that we can have this whole trend and era of where we can consume these things at leisure, but also know there are threats posed to that when it comes to your well-being beyond just the mental health, but also your physicality. We know children or young people who may spend a whole day without even moving an inch. The longest they can move is from the seat to the fridge. So if this person is about 15 years, give them about 10 years. We have concerns in terms of obesity, you know. When it comes to productivity, at workplaces, we know people who spend hours on TikTok.
This is true.
Yeah, we know people, we have seen families, and and these are very common examples, and we can all relate and be like, oh yeah, without even thinking hard, I know ABCD within my circle or in my family. Then the other part is in regards to competence, digital literacy and competence. When we talk about digital stuff or online things, always people think about social media, but there is a lot more in terms of digital literacy and how competent you can be and make a living and make yourself more productive on it. We have seen very many e-commerce platforms come up, and there is not a better time that I can reference like COVID-19. We saw how important technology was applauded during that time in terms of education ecosystem, the health sector, agriculture, how people became more innovating and appreciating technology more than ever because we had a pandemic. And the only thing that was going to help us be better was leveraging technology towards social good.
Yes.
Yeah. And we saw, and I think we still suffer that part because I think we lost about 2 years here in Uganda in regards to school when you have young children who had to sit, for example, exams, and you know you're going to surpass that level for your child, and they had to wait for a whole lot of year. And that time lost can never be recovered. So it is very pertinent for us to also look at the opportunities technology has to offer today and realize how we can utilize it for social good, and also look at how best we can leverage it and diversify our potential and harness what we can do as people. And then maybe lastly is this comes to the ministry and also maybe the state and the policy makers like NITA-U, ethical considerations in regards on how we interpret different digital platforms and digital ecosystem as a whole. And I'm glad, I think in 2023, around August, the Ministry of ICT launched the Digital Transformation Roadmap.
Yes.
And one of the key things was about digital services in regards to what can be done as the ecosystem as a state, government services, and we have seen this kind of improvement. But the concern comes down to implementation and intervention. Are they interpreted for us consumers to be able to utilize these things fully in terms of contextualization and localization of this? When my mom is, for example, let me say, is a farmer, she can afford a car, but does she know how to even, purchase a tin online by herself? All these services are very pertinent, but when it comes to context, they need to be interpreted in a language that is more consumable for everybody, so that we always have this thing, leaving nobody behind when it comes to digitalization as norms and slangs, but they only cater for particular people who can interpret that kind of language. The kind of context that usually is shared in these particular ways, is not for layman's person. But when you look at the GDP of the country, the people who contribute are in the informal sector. When you go downtown, I can assure you these people make their money. But when it comes to interpretation of utilizing these services, they are manipulated and abused. And I think that's where we get threats again to digital fraud, whereby there are too many third parties who may think Babalo is better than them, and they do not know much, like what you shared earlier when it comes to awareness. They'll fall prey for this kind of abuse. And when we talk about digital threats, it's beyond just technology facilitated, but we have a very huge threat when it comes to digital fraud. I think each one of us or anyone watching this particular episode can acknowledge a time when they have received random calls, not once, someone telling you you've won a bike. Yeah, we've seen these callers.
I've sent
and
you
guess
money,
what?
send it back.
With the old regulations and the flow of how we use these national IDs to make sure we are identified in terms of our identities, in terms of, holding a national SIM card. You're supposed to register, for example, with, what is it? NIRA, but NIRA is also under regulation by UCC. So if we've seen complaints of people reporting, and there is not so much that telecoms can do. And just to wind up, to bring upon telecoms in play when we have such conversations, because they're the biggest internet service providers. For them, it's just about social profit. But there is consumers who work hard to pay for you to stay in business. Can they put regulatory frameworks that also cater for these threats? Not just to be like, oh, you can report to police and stuff. If my line is compromised, we've seen people lose their phones and they go to replace and someone has borrowed money on that line. How does that happen without these particular service providers being in line to understand? So if I report, and I have my particular password, that means that service providers have a lean line of compromise within the system, and we are not taking it so serious to make sure we bring them to account, to make sure they can be more transparent and pay for these people. I know people who always share and be like, I lost my card, reported to police, immediately blocked it. To replace it, you find someone has borrowed money on that line. Who is responsible for such fault, for things like that? And guess what? Back to what you asked Anne-Marie earlier on. Women fall prey of digital fraud more than men. I'm not saying men do not, but you know the excitement or the nature of how many people in Nakasero who receive, have you ever the statistics of or recorded things? We've seen this on TikTok. Or people who always answer these things, these phone calls. You will tell this is someone in the informal sector. And majorly they're usually women in markets, vendors, majorly in informal sector. So makes them more susceptible to this kind of threats and vulnerability, and which comes down to the digital divide and underrepresentation, where we put more emphasis. And because the informal sector contributes to the highest number, to the highest of our GDP.
I appreciate you holding, the powers that be accountable in the different ways, but still on the area of accountability. Now, you have informed me today. I didn't know that I could go back and ask for a copy of my national ID where I've submitted it. And I bet someone who's watching this now is like, you know what, let me finish this episode. I'm going to go and get a copy of my driver's license and everything. But you will find that there are cases where institutions will abuse the data. They'll maybe disseminate it unlawfully. They'll destroy it. They'll do whatever it is that they're not supposed to. What are some of these penalties that we can give to these people so that they stay in line also? How can we hold them accountable? As a regular Ugandan, what are the penalties for, let me say, breaking the law in terms of data protection?
Thank you for that question. But before I answer it about holding the organizations accountable, I think even us as individuals, we should first reflect and hold ourselves accountable. Because as a regulator for data protection and privacy, we've seen that in most instances it could actually have been avoided if the individuals had actually played their part. I'll still give you an example from some of the complaints that we've investigated. So, and these are actual examples within Uganda. How many of us, at least a good majority of Ugandans, you walk up to a photocopier with your copy of your national ID. You ask them to photocopy it. So then they tell you, the first copy is not clear. Let's try again. So they run the second, third. They tell you, actually, this one is very clear, but you only pay for the clear one. Of course, you're happy you won't have to pay for the extra unclear copies. You walk away. There is an instance where an individual, due to such scenarios, what they termed as being unclear, he never asked for those copies. So they were actually used to register other SIM cards not in his name. They masked the photo, and then actually one of the numbers was used to defraud a lady in Western Uganda of 30 million. This was a gentleman downtown, works in a nail salon, had never even had 1 million on his account, but they told him, the KYC details showed that it was you. Right. Before he could explain, his life was upside down. And when we investigated, we actually found out that, he never bothered to ask for those copies. Someone went ahead to use those copies of the national ID. So even if you go to that building and they're insisting to have a copy of your national ID, you can ask them, can't I give you another ID which identifies me without? Because the national ID shows a lot. From the national ID number, I can tell. Of course, most people know your gender, date of birth,
place of residence. But a person can even tell your family tree. Yeah. Because when you connect certain numbers, you can tell this is the father, these are the children, and all that. So it carries a lot more. Yes.
So the accountability can start with ourselves. Your copies of national ID and other relevant documents, don't go leaving copies around. You're arming them. If they have less information about you, then they'll misuse it less. Now, going back to the organizations themselves, The law, within the law, the Data Protection and Privacy Act, the penalties are quite high. It has both the criminal aspect, meaning that anyone who is found culpable can actually be imprisoned between 3 months to 10 years. So this goes to the law requires a person called the Data Protection Officer to ensure compliance with the law. That person, and then everyone that allowed the non-compliance to go on, all the way up to the managing director or CEO, whoever manages the organization can actually be held accountable. Then the others, it also has the civil aspect to it. You can be fined as an organization. The law says up to 2% of your gross turnover. So if you found you misused the information, you violated the privacy rights, that can catch up with you. But it doesn't stop there. The law carries a third angle to it. If as an individual, you know, then my information was misused, I suffered distress, psychological effects and things of that kind, I can actually ask for compensation. Now, compensation is open.
As you should.
Could be as little as probably 5 million, as it happened with a case of a lady who used to work at Starbucks. Her employers then asked her to turn up. They took a picture of her. And she tried to ask, why are you taking my picture? Because they told her to come smartly dressed, better than usual. So she was wondering, why am I doing this? They took photos of her before she knew it. Some months down the road, people are calling her, telling her, you know, you have money, please give us money. I was like, which money do I have? You're on billboards. You're seeing you on social media. So they were using her image to advertise the product. And people were telling her there is no way you can convince us, especially her family, convince us that you don't have money when we are seeing you all over. So because the employers did not get her explicit consent, because she begrudgingly accepted, and the Data Protection and Privacy Act does not consider that as consent, the company was asked to compensate her 5 million shillings. But it could even go beyond, can even be in billions. So as a company, you know, beyond the criminal aspects to it and civil and even compensation, you need to be mindful. And this is happening a lot. You know, you join an organization, the company, those in PR, they say, okay, everyone is happy at parties, end of year parties, they take people's pictures, they end up in calendars, on social media. It could even be at events. So as a company, you'll be held accountable. Ignorance of the law is no defense.
Exactly.
So these are some of the penalties that can actually be accrued due to your mishandling of personal information of individuals, because your image, your photo itself is also personal data. Personal data is any information from which you could be identified.
Yes.
So those are just some of the penalties within the law and how organizations can be held accountable. The other is around PDPO can tell the organization you are not allowed to process or collect this personal data of this particular kind anymore.
Right.
So there are a lot many more, but just understanding that there is great responsibility when you collect. So only collect what is minimal. Even with that minimal information you've collected, use it and protect it responsibly.
Which is very important. You know, even those forms that we fill for maybe obtaining national ID or SIM cards or opening a bank account, most times you'll go up to a teller's window and someone's details are right there and they could not be bothered. So maybe that sensitization is also necessary in organizations to let their people know. Now, before I release you back to the world of protecting Uganda digitally, if you could have a magic mouse click, I'll start with you, Martin. With a blank check, with a magic wand, with a whatever belief system, and you could just hit it and make Uganda digitally safer, what do you think that magic bullet would be on top of all the bullets already in your chamber?
That's a very tough question. But if there was one I would have to shoot, it would be training and awareness, right? The reason why we have the certain security systems in place is because there was a guy who robbed some place and used a certain technique.
Yes.
Right? You've seen banks with double doors, vaults. It was not an innovation that came out of someone's dream.
someone was
Some
robbed.
thief came and did something, and the guys were like, no, we have to fortify. So I think the more aware you are, the more trained you are, the easier it is.
Yes.
Now you will ask, awareness, where do we find it? I can confidently tell you, in my years of experience working, I think 80% of my knowledge has come from self-teaching.
Oh, that's impressive.
YouTube has become a school that I go to.
Yes, very true.
Right? So here's the awareness tip. Before you buy a device, before you download
An app.
an application, sit down on YouTube and just tear that thing apart from there. Before I take on any tech item, whether it's a smartwatch, a phone, anything, I go and sit with that university. I turn the thing around, even if it's a car, by the way. And
Even
now
a car?
Even a car. Because there are cars now that talk to satellites.
Yes.
The electric cars, right?
Yes.
There are cars that have cameras on them full time, right?
That have weight sensors in the seats, so they get your habits about how many people you travel with in the car.
Exactly.
That is terrifying.
Thank you. And they know how much you ate because now the weight has changed. So, before you take on any technology service or any technology item, whether software, hardware, take time to teach yourself first. Did you know that there's a particular phone? I've seen a couple of them in this room. That if somebody took a nude picture or an adult content picture or video and sent it to you, did you know that there's an automatic feature that stops the content from being shown on your side?
Is that what that means? Sometimes I see on my browser it says certain things stopped. It stopped something.
Correct. So probably an adult content website has taken over that domain.
Okay.
And you, of course, unknowingly and suspectingly, what the technology does for you is to save you from that. Right? So when you have young children that you're handing smartphones in secondary school and primary school, as a parent, it is your responsibility to know, teach yourself, get aware, sit down and tweak a few things.
Yes.
Right?
Put in those barriers.
There are applications on the internet. This one I recommend for parents who have kids that have smartphones. It's called Net Nanny. The Net Nanny is an application that sits down and sieves all the information that comes to the device of the minor. So if there's a certain person maybe who has the kid's WhatsApp number and wants to solicit nude images, the moment this kid takes a picture, that picture
stops.
never goes to the other person.
Wonderful.
Or if it goes, it's a blur, complete blur. We've had cases of, so part of what NITA does is digital forensics, and we support law enforcement. So we've had cases where adults were soliciting pictures from minors. Thank God for the Computer Misuse Act. And so we had to sit down with those parents after and educate them that there is a way of stopping this stuff. So the silver bullet for me,
Training and
awareness. Take time to educate yourself. If you want to go to a cybersecurity school, there are so many around the world. There are so many that are available in Uganda. Go and study. But just take time before you bring in this thing into your home.
To learn about it.
Take time to learn.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it from me.
Oh, that's wonderful. Aidah, if we could have your silver bullet quickly as well.
For me, it's something in normalizing punishment, actually, when it comes to digital abuse. So I don't think we have strongly understood the pain and the consequences that digital threats pose onto people's lives, work, and the entire ecosystem. So I think as a state, as policymakers, we should also have strong and be deliberate in making sure there is punishment in regards to what is banned, in terms if it's a particular person's website or a blogger doing ABCD to abuse, digitally threaten, another person. There should be consequences that are under constitutional to make sure people can learn and do not replicate and make it normal for others, to make it seem like, these are things that people do every day. There has been some effort and get away with it. Yeah, and when it comes to children, and I appreciate the fact that you mentioned stuff to do with children, I think we are in an era where children are going to be or are living under, being monitored and being graced by digital platforms or
Yes.
in a digital ecosystem. It should be very pertinent that we look at it beyond just, digital is just social media, but people use it for learning. Children, people have cameras and stuff like that. So if you're going to look at what we call a watchdog in terms of our physical and general life, there should be also a general watchdog when it comes to our digital ways of living, especially for young people and children at large. I'm not saying we are so very comfortable as adults right now, but it becomes harder because they're the next generation.
Yes.
So if they grow up and they see these particular laws enforced, that actually when you do ABCD, the same way we knew that if you walk around on the village abusing so-and-so, they're going to report you to your mother's uncle's uncle. Yeah? At least you're very accountable to that threat.
Right.
And that kind of punishment, that it should be in law that actually digital abuse or having consumption to digital platforms and tools are digital rights is also right. Like, it's our fundamental right here.
Normalize consequences just
Yes.
as much as we have normalized abuse.
Shockingly, the Computer Misuse Act does that. I think Rebecca can just give you a minute about it. It has the consequence, it has the penalty. I think the problem is the action.
The action when it comes to policymakers. Let us take it so serious so that people understand. Like I shared with you earlier on, when it comes to the next couple of months, we are going into democratic process. People are going to use a lot of digital things in terms of, implementing AI things to do deep fakes, misinforming and disinforming, fake news, etc. on people. Can there be consequences in place so that when such things happen, people know it's not just a walkover?
Yes.
I cannot dismiss the efforts that have been put in place, and we have seen some of the cases brought to book, but that is not enough. Yeah.
Make it mainstream.
Yes.
And what's your final silver bullet, Baker?
Thank you, Anne-Marie. It's not different from Martin's. It's awareness.
Yeah.
Because we've seen that awareness changes culture.
Right.
And when you have a culture where people are aware of their rights and they assert their rights with these organizations, they change their behavior.
Yes.
And as PDPO, we have monthly webinars online every last Thursday from 11 a.m. to midday. You can log on and they are free. You listen in, we bring in experts. We have a YouTube channel, PDPO Uganda. All these webinars are recorded from so many topics. So a person can watch those that we've recorded for the past 3.5 years. Our website also has a lot of information on your rights, but then also how organizations should handle your information. You can go to pdpo.go.ug. So it's about awareness, because we've seen where awareness is well appreciated,
Yes.
there is change of behavior.
Absolutely. Now, one final one. This is the Ugandan podcast, so we know that you're all listening Ugandan. What are your top 2 Ugandan songs at the moment? Maybe you sang them on your way here. Maybe it was playing in the shower this morning. As you go back, keeping the 30 kilometers, what is going to keep you calm? What are your top 2 Ugandan songs at the moment?
I'll start.
Please.
Elijah Chitaka's Echange Chibaby. I don't know if that's the title of the song.
Yes, that alone we know the one that you're talking about.
That one, and then my forever favorite is always Grenava.
Yes.
And it is the Alibomo song. I love that song, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very
It's
nice
quite
song.
old, but not the top ones, but those 2 work for me, yeah.
And for you, Martin, what is in your ears?
I have a very big diversity of music I listen to. But my sister Vinka, we're not related, eh? Yeah. She has a song called Red Card.
Red Card.
Yeah. Very nice. There's also another one called Sirubara.
I like Sirubara.
Yeah. If I've not seen it, the day has not made sense.
Yeah.
I love that. It speaks a lot. Yeah, so those are, I think those are my top 2.
At the moment.
Yeah. Keeping my Haman Kardon busy.
And for you, Baker, your top 2 Ugandans.
I'm going to struggle with that, but I think I don't have the name of the song offhand, but it's a song by Elijah Chitaka. I don't know whether it's one of them. I think I'll stop at that.
Okay.
I'll struggle with the others.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for working towards keeping Uganda digitally safe. And now the onus is on you. Also, you take the steps to protect yourself. Passwords of 1, 2, 3, 4. Really, ABCD, your name, your birth date. Let's move away from that. Let's transition from that. Help them help you. This has been the Ugandan podcast by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance in collaboration with MultiChoice Uganda. Stay safe.